Hello makers, it's Marion from Lovecrafts. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to use this fantastic extra long spaghetti from Garofalo to make macrame. I thought, when we were little we used to make necklaces out of pasta and stuff like that. So why don't we make a wall hanging to hang in your kitchen out of extra long spaghetti? So we're using Garofalo pasta, which is made just in the province of Naples. And they've been making pasta since the 1700s, so they know what they're doing. And it's only wheat and water. Nothing else goes into this beauty. And this one I've chosen because it's really, really long, but obviously this is going to be the best one for macrame. And if the macrame works, I might even try and knit it. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to cook some of this lovely Garofalo pasta into the water. Now, very carefully take it out of the packet. Look at this beautiful packet. Because you obviously want it to stay as long as possible. So it's very long, and instead of just sort of like popping it in and letting it fall, I'm actually going to be a bit more careful. So I've got my pasta here. I think, you'd let it all fall, but I'm not going to let it fall because I really, really want to make sure that it's not going to break. And so in order to make that even more possible, I've got some boiling water here, and I'm just going to pour a little bit of boiling water. Go around this way so you can see, just because I really don't want it to break. There you go. And then we'll just let it curl nicely into the water. Okay, so now we leave it for 10 minutes, but I'm going to check it at 8. So I have had this pasta boiling now, and I've just turned it off for about 9.5 minutes. And I want to show you the consistency. So I've got a piece. Now this is probably much softer than you would eat it. So the reason that I've cooked it until it's a little bit softer than you would normally eat is because I want the knot to work. So you see I've got a little bit here. If I tie it in a knot, the knot holds. And that is what we need for macrame. So what I'm going to use, I've got my lovely pasta here and it's still slightly warm. I'm going to put my macrame onto a knitting needle because let's face it, we love crafts. We need some crafty things here. So I'm going to take 10 of these lovely long pieces of spaghetti. I'm going to start off by putting them on the knitting needle. Now, if you are going to, what you could do is you could anchor this knitting needle with some blue tack, but I can't find mine. So we're just going to go without it. But so we're going to start off, I'm going to put the spaghetti while it's still warm. Just take your little loop, fold it in half of spaghetti. It's a bit wriggly, so this is quite fun. And then over the top of the knitting needle, and I'm going to put the two ends through the loop and pull it down. So you've got 2 pieces of spaghetti like that. And we're going to do that 10 times. So I shall meet you back here when I've got 10. So now I have 10 strands of my gorgeous Garofalo extra long spaghetti on my knitting needle. To make it a little bit more malleable, I've bought a little bit of olive oil on a brush here, and I'm just going to give it a little brush just so that it keeps it flexible, because remember, it's starting to cool now, and as soon as it starts to cool, it might get a little less friendly to work with. Right, so we're going to work with the first 4 strands of spaghetti. Separate them out, and we take the 4th one, here over here, take it across the other 3. Take the first one, lift it up, and we're going to take it underneath these 2. And then we're going to pop it through the loop. And can you see we're just about to pull a knot? So I'm going to grab these 2 ends, and I've got a little brush here to help me just pick them up. And as I pull, the knot forms. Can you see up here? We've got our first macrame knot. So I'm going to work the knot the other way round now. So I'm going to take the left hand piece across, I'm going to take the right hand piece and put it over and underneath these two. It's very useful to have my little brush to help pick it up, and then through the loop. And then, can you see how I'm going to pull these two pieces of spaghetti? And as I pull them, it creates our second macrame knot. So we've worked our first little section there, and I'm going to lift that to one side. Next, our next two knots with 4 strands of spaghetti. Now, what you can see is that I've now got 5 groups of macrame knot, and so now what we're going to do is to work with a little different sort of scenario. So I'm going to take 2 from the side there, and we're going to work with the next 4 strands of spaghetti. So here they are, and we're going to do exactly the same kind of knot, but with these. So I start off with the middle, and then I lift this one over here. You really need a pastry brush for this. It makes such a difference. Right, so underneath there, and then we pop this little strand, whoops, under there. So now, if you can see that, I'm going to pull the knot, and lo and behold, it links those together. Isn't that gorgeous? So this time we do it the other way, taking the left across, lifting up the right strand. They go underneath. Have to be really careful not to break your spaghetti. So work quickly but carefully with this one. And then this through the loop there. Whoops. In it goes, little wriggly strand. And we pull those together. That's just gorgeous, isn't it? So there we are. That's taken those 2 together. Then we work with the next 4 strands. So I'm going to take 2 that are left here and 2 from the next knot. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll meet you back here. I'm just going to hold that up for you so you can see how pretty that's starting to look. And what we're going to do now is just one more row of the knots, and then we're going to trim it. So I pop that back down on my workspace, and remember just to keep adding a little bit of olive oil to the strands that you're working, because you don't want them to snap, not after all this wonderful work. So I'm going to take 2 away there and another 2. So we've got 4 at the side, and we're going to work on the next 4 strands. So these 2 here, so we're going to join these 2 together. And we work in the same way. You take the far strand there, and then we're going to pick up this little chap there. Oh, see, a little bit sticky. And that one's going to come down here, underneath that one, underneath the 2 middle strands. And what you notice is, as you go along with this, that of course the ones that you're working with, the strands you're working with, are getting shorter. So you know you have got a limit as to how big you can make your pasta. So there we go. Going to knock that through there. And now ready for that lovely moment again to pull. And then I'm going to do the same thing this way. And then this one comes over the top and under the 2 middle strands, using my pastry brush to lift them up. It does get sticky, I warn you, but it'll be worth it. There we go. And we pull again. Ooh. And there we come into the next sort of level. So now we choose the next 4 strands, keep those to one side, and we do the same process again another 2 times. Right, I'm just lifting it up for you again so you can see how we're coming down into a really pretty point. So now what I'm going to do is to work the 2 in the middle here. So I'm going to just take the 2 aside, and on the other side 2 strands aside. Whoopsie. So now I'm going to work these 4 together and these 4 together. So we do the same thing. We take a strand from one side and across, and it doesn't matter which way around you do this. If you do it on the left or the right first, it's perfectly okay. Under we go. Under there. Oopsie. And then through there. And I'm ready to pull that into a knot. And then I'm going to do it the other way round. Under the middle. Through that loop. And pull it up. So there we are. And now I'm going to do the same thing with these 4 strands here. So there we are. You can see now we're coming into a really nice point. Now what we've got here is a situation where we've got quite short ends. So what I'm going to do is just see how we go with the middle 4 strands. And some of this is a bit short, so fingers crossed. We take one side across here, and then this one here comes across underneath those 2 middle strands. Gosh, that is one quite short, isn't it? And then up through the loop, and then we tie it, and then we're just going to try and get one last knot out. This one comes across, over, under the middles. I think we might just make it. Whoopsie. Oh, through there and pull the knot. Now, isn't that just gorgeous? So to finish this, we're going to trim with a pair of just kitchen scissors. Don't use your fabric scissors on pasta because you'll blunt them. So I'm going to bring those just neatly down so we're in a line, and then what I suggest you do is find a middle point, and actually I'm just going to use my scissors to press through the pasta. Just thinking about it, probably easier than using a blade. And then I'm going to just do the same thing that way, boom, to make it even. We take those out the way, our loose ends. So here we are, makers. Our final beautiful flourish, a stunning extra long Garofalo pasta spaghetti macrame wall hanging for just a little bit of swish in your kitchen. So once you've finished your gorgeous spaghetti macrame, you're going to need to let it dry. So put it on a piece of baking paper, parchment paper, let it dry for a couple of days, and then when it's really dry, be very careful how you hang it up. But I think you'll agree this is the most gorgeous spaghetti macrame you've ever seen. Well done, makers. And here's the finished article, some beautiful spaghetti macrame on a knitting needle, perfect for crafters everywhere. Happy making.